Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. I hope all of you are doing well. In this video, we are going to focus specifically on the English literature paper for ICSE class 10. 10 top tips. Uh, First and foremost, ensure that you have read the text multiple number of times. The text, both Treasure Trove and Merchant of Venice, is of paramount importance. Then, if you have notes, please read the notes. If you're part of our English literature test series in which there are 20 papers, please go through all the answers. Okay, there are answers written the way you should write subjective, and of course there are also MCQ papers. You will find them useful. First tip that you should bear in mind is that please, for heaven's sake, do not do percentage or selective study. Especially in MOV, it is a risk. If you saw the ICSE specimen paper, both the passages, both the extracts were from the trial scene, Act 4, right? And of the 4 questions in MCQs, one was a generic question, 2 questions were from Act 5, and 1 was from Act 4. So while ideally speaking, the paper should contain 1 passage from trial scene, 1 passage from the ring scene, that is Act 5. But if the council decides to give, if the examiner decides to give both the passages from, say, the ring scene, and you have prepared only the trial scene, then can you file a case against the council? You can't, obviously, right? So it's your call whether you want to take such a risk or not. Okay, entirely up to you. Point number 2. There is a section of students that goes by summaries of poems, of stories, or of the Merchant of Venice scenes. There are people who teach like that also. Please follow this method only if you do not want to do well. Let me say this very, very openly and bluntly. The council, you speak to any senior teacher or the council representatives, they will tell you reading summaries is a bad idea. That's not the way to do English literature at all. Okay. In fact, a couple of days ago, a student of class 12 ISC wrote to me on my video of Dover Beach, okay, saying why am I not explaining Dover Beach in Hindi? English में बड़बड़ कर रहा है, he wrote, okay. My point is, beta, if you have to write the answers in English in ISC class 12, you better get used to listening to explanations in English because it will help you. मेरे को हिंदी में बोलने में कोई तकलीफ नहीं है, लेकिन हिंदी में बोलने से तुम्हारा कोई भला नहीं होगा बिकॉज तुम्हारे फिर ख्याल और उत्तर भी हिंदी में ही फॉर्म होंगे और उसके बाद जब अंग्रेजी में उसको ट्रांसलेट करोगे तब तुम्हारा ग्रामर का एक ग्रामर इलाहाबाद जाएगा, एक ग्रामर राजकोट जाएगा. सो प्लीज डोंट डू दैट. Listen to explanations in simple English. It will help you because the more you listen, you get used to using the same words and expressions when you write your answers. This method is in order to help you, मेरे भाई. तो समझा करो, English में बड़बड़ नहीं करते हैं. If that's the way you speak at home and generally, then well, no comments on that. Okay. Now, because summary करना तो बहुत आसान है. 5 मिनट में summary करके निकल जाओ, बहुत आसान है. काफी सारे लोग ऐसे करते हैं. Third point, of the 4 questions that you will get as part of the passage, right? Especially for ICSE class 10, 3 will be directly connected to who said what, where was it said, what happened before this passage, what will happen after this passage. So you need to know exactly where that extract has been taken from which scene. Okay, that will be the more of a reference to context kind of questions. The last question is likely to be a more generic one, right? So ensure that you prepare those questions well on Portia's character, on Shylock's, the entire vengeance thing falling flat, the tables being turned on him, Portia's character both in the court scene as well as in the ring scene, the Antonio Bassanio's friendship and relationship, the theme of loyalty which plays out in the last scene. So all those things prepare so that if you get a more generic question, you are well equipped to handle that. Also remember that if you get a Portia related passage from Act 4, highly unlikely that you will get a Portia related passage from Act 5 also. In which case it's quite likely that you may get a Lorenzo Jessica kind of a passage from Act 5. Okay, assuming that one will be Act 4 and one will be Act 5, right? Or you may get a Portia Bassanio passage from Act 5 and you may get a Shylock related passage from trial scene. Okay, these are the permutations and combinations that could possibly come. Point number 5, keywords. It will be a good idea to underline the keywords. right? So that you highlight them, the examiner knows, okay, ये keywords इस student ने लिखे हैं. MCQs, read the question carefully, especially if there is a not in the question, NOT. Most mistakes that I find students make in our MCQ series are related to those not wale questions. Also, the choice of words in every question. Please understand the context of the question, because at least 2 or sometimes even 3 options may be very close to each other. You have the experience of semester 1, so be wiser from the experience. Now let's talk about the poems and stories in particular. Now among poems, 9 gold medals would be easier and more meaty to attempt than About Ben Adam. Okay, which some students may find a bit vague. There are students who find Ben Adam also pretty interesting and easy, which is fine. I'm just saying that 9 gold medals is more rooted in facts. So in that sense, it may be easier to attempt than Ben Adam, which is of the supernatural element, and it may be a little kind of a vague kind of a poem. Among the stories, again, My Greatest Olympic Prize may be less complicated than All Summer in a Day. I'm not saying prepare only one, prepare both. I'm not at all a votary of percentage study. I'm only saying which may be easier to attempt. But having said that, now let me come to the next point. Please, in the first 10 minutes of reading time that you get, spend them, of course, on the MCQs. In fact, more than MCQs, I would want you to spend it on the subjective part to decide which poem you want to attempt, which story you want to attempt, which passage you want to attempt from MOV. Okay, I do not want you to be in a situation where you start writing, पहला answer मेरे को मालूम है, पहला question का answer मुझे मालूम है, and you start attempting, and in the third answer you start wondering, अरे इसके सारे points मुझे नहीं मालूम है. I don't know all the points of this question. Then should I strike it out and attempt the next one? You would have wasted at least 10 to 12 minutes in that. So spend the first 10 minutes working out all the points and then deciding whether I should attempt My Greatest Olympic Prize or All Summer in a Day, Above Ben Adam or 9 gold medals, this passage or that passage from MOB. Do that in the first 10 minutes. That's what you should do in the first 10 minutes. Okay. Ensure that you know all the answers to be able to score a 10 out of 10 in the subjective part. Okay. Don't compromise on that. Last point. During revision, not only should you read the answers all over again. सारे answers पूरी तरह से पढ़ लो. You can underline the keywords during your revision time, but ensure that you read all the answers thoroughly, slowly. Also in MCQs, what you should do is not just to see whether A, B, C, D ठीक से लिखा है नहीं. That's not the point. Read the question again just to be on the safer side. Just एक बारी फिर से देखने के लिए कि D था ना. Sometimes when you are too excited that you know everything, you may write C instead of A. That kind of mistakes can also happen, especially with very excited kind of students. So ensure that you have not written any wrong option. These are the 10 practical tips which you should put to work as far as the English literature paper is concerned. So I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.